So welcome to this project building session of September with a real focus on the soil deal. So this is recorded, so we can pass it on to more viewers that cannot make it to this event. And I have the pleasure really to welcome Pekka. It's a topic that we've been talking about for 3 months, I think, 3-4 months, and I'm really happy we could make it. Now it's a really timely moment in September to get a bit of knowledge about what the EU is doing about soil regeneration. What is it about the soil deal that you might hear? And yeah, we have some Pekka that is very dedicated to the topic and that made space and time to share some of his knowledge. So Pekka, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. So my name is Pekka Ilmari-Nikander. I'm a former university professor and serial entrepreneur, now working as a volunteer for Ecolis. I'm trying to help Ecolis in getting EU funding for research and innovation projects. And I've been looking at the Horizon Europe program for soils, the soil deal mission, for a little bit more over a year now, networking in some countries, like quite a lot here in Finland. Then I'm going to network also in Italy and in Spain separately, but still in the Ecolis context. And today we are going to have this online networking meeting, and we are probably going to have a few people joining this meeting still while I'm starting. So please let me see if I can share my slides.
Perfect.
Okay. So this call is mainly about Horizon Europe funding for a mission called a Soil Deal for Europe. As I mentioned, I'm an independent researcher and activist volunteering for Ecolis here. And what I want to briefly talk today is basically first an introduction on what this is about, why is it about, and from whom. So who could be participating. Then I will briefly introduce myself. So why I'm doing this, who I am. Then we go to the real deal. So what's the soil deal for Europe? Then my current plans, and then we have plenty of time for discussion and joining forces and so on. So briefly, the background. As you know, the European Union is redistributing billions of euros every year. The largest program probably is the Common Agriculture Policy, which is about 60 billion a year. And then there is the Horizon Europe program, which is the research and innovation program, which is 14 billion per year. And this is what we are speaking about today, a small part of this Horizon Europe program. If we are looking at the whole picture, EU is distributing an increasing fraction of the money to organic farming, improving soils, improving biodiversity, and so on. For example, in the Common Agriculture Policy, it's a goal now to redistribute the money so that by 2027, about 30% of the agriculture support goes to organic farming. And as you probably know, permaculture design is shown to be exceptionally good for soil and regeneration by biodiversity, organic farming beyond the current organic farming, etc. So this is the background why I am looking at. I'm aware of these, and I would like to see that permaculture and eco-villages and these EU programs find each other so that they benefit each other in both ways. So what I would like to do in the longer run, so if I'm looking at the next decade or so, I would like to massively seed and spread permaculture design practices to the European agriculture. And my current plan and wish is that I could start this seeding with this Horizon Europe mission, a soil deal for Europe, that we will be talking about today, which is a separate EU program of currently about 300 million on restoring soils. Then if this is successful, then later we can attempt to spread the ideas to the Common Agriculture Policy and thereby to the European agriculture in the large. So who I am looking for? I'm looking for permaculture actors, eco-villages, and other parties like this who are interested in applying for this Horizon Europe funding, which is for research and innovation in soil restoration. So this is not for investing in something. This is not for paying your operational good costs and so on. This is for doing research and innovation, and the European Union paying for this research and innovation activities. This is also about education and citizen science, where Ecolis is quite strong already, and this is an opportunity to spread the lessons learned in permaculture and eco-villages to the wider audience within the European Union. This also means for each of the actors here, everybody who is joining, that you need to be willing to cooperate with 10 to 20 other sites or other actors. These are always networks of sites that we are speaking about here, and that you're willing and able to tolerate some EU bureaucracy, because we are dealing with here EU, so quite a lot of stuff goes to that bureaucracy. But I'm sure that Ecolis will help there, and Abdul and I and others will be helping you. But this is, in a way, this is what it is.
Well, Ecolis welcomes some help too. It's not that we're having fun with EU bureaucracy either.
All right, then why me? Why I'm doing this? So, as I already briefly mentioned, I'm a former serial entrepreneur, Aalto University professor. Since a few months, I'm an independent researcher, basically living on my savings right now, but I'm not rich, so maybe I will start getting money from somewhere at some point. But for a couple of years, I can now just volunteer and work on this. In the previous EU Research and Innovation Program, the Horizon 2020 program, my success rate in various proposals was around 50%. So in the end of that, I was pretty successful in getting EU money for various projects, but it was in a different area. It was in ICT, not in this kind of social and agriculture projects where we are speaking about right now. So when coming to this new world, which is which is new to me, permaculture, eco-villages, and so on, I'm bringing what I have been doing where I'm good, and this is the reason why I would like to continue from this point of view. All right. So what is this soil deal? It's basically a Horizon Europe mission. So it's part of this Horizon Europe program, which is, as I mentioned, about 14 billion every year until 2027. And then we don't know what's going to happen after that. It's a mission, which is a new type of funding instrument. In the previous EU programs, there haven't been any missions. Now there are 5 of them. And this Soil Deal for Europe is one of those missions. And the EU's goal with these missions is to create concrete solutions for the greatest challenges that we have. For example, there is a separate mission for climate, and then there are 3 other missions that I don't remember by heart. Now, speaking about this Soil Deal mission, one of the practical goals of this mission is to create 100 living labs and lighthouses that will lead transition towards healthy soils by 2030. So probably the EU will also try to learn from these living labs and lighthouses and try to use those as examples for the future common agriculture policy. But I'm not really sure what is their roadmap towards that. So that is something that I need to study still a little bit more. What are then these living labs and lighthouses, and how they are basically planned to be built? So the goal is to have 100 of them, and we are now in phase 1 of the program, where the mission is being introduced, and there will be some pilot lighthouses and living labs. The first funding call for them will be opened next year, and they will be probably funded by 2024. According to the information that I have, which may change, next year there will be funded 2 living labs, and then on the next call, which may be towards the end of next year or in the beginning of 2024, there will be around 7 more living labs funded, and then gradual expansion from that through 2025 and 2026. Until then, in the next phase, starting from 2027, we don't exactly know what's going to happen then, because it's a new funding program by that time. The Soil Deal has a lot of document. There is well over 100 pages of document that the EU has produced as the background for this. And this is basically just, in a way, the top of the iceberg of what they say. And they say that there are 8 objectives, which you can see here: reduce desertification, conserve soil organic carbon stocks, stop soil sealing and increase reuse of urban soils, reduce soil pollution and enhance restoration, prevent erosion, improve soil structure to enhance soil biodiversity, reduce the EU global footprint on soils, and improve soil literacy in the society. And Ecolis is already very active, especially in the last improve soil literacy in the society, and probably in some of the others, but I don't know Ecolis that well, so that I don't know where Ecolis is already active. There are 4 parts in this mission, which is research and innovation, living labs and lighthouses, soil monitoring, soil literacy communication, and citizen engagement. And today we are mostly speaking about living labs and lighthouses, maybe also a little bit about soil literacy communication and citizen engagement, but the actual monitoring and research and innovation programs are probably not so interesting to the Ecolis folks and other people that I'm trying to network right now. So what are these living labs and lighthouses? According to the EU, a living lab is a number of real-life sites in rural or urban areas, and they seem to be requiring all of rural, peri-urban, and urban areas in various sectors and backgrounds that are experimenting and testing with solutions in a co-creative manner. So this is what each of these living labs will be doing. It will be a number of sites, typically 10 to 20 sites, which are like farms, forests, urban areas, urban green areas, maybe also some other areas at regional or sub-regional level, which I don't really know yet what it means. And the members of this kind of a living lab need to be from various sectors and backgrounds. So it can't be all eco-villages. It also needs to be like maybe some industrial farming, some SMEs, maybe some industry as well. But we don't know exactly because the actual call will be open only next year, and we will know only by that time when the actual call will be open. A lighthouse, on the other hand, is an individual site, such as a single farm, which could be, for example, a large eco-village which is exceptionally good in restoring soils and dealing with soils. And the lighthouses are meant to showcase good practices, and they are places for demonstrations, training, and communication. So another alternative for a lighthouse might be a very good land center from the permaculture world. So learning, action, networking, and I don't remember what the D is, maybe design center, which is doing, again, dealing with the soil in an exceptionally good manner. What does this then need typically? So we don't know yet the details of the calls because they are not open. And we don't know how they are going to be funded, but typically the programs and projects in Horizon Europe are funded for 3 to 4 years. And each project is typically from 3 to 8 million. So these are the typical numbers that we are likely to see. And probably then the funding is going to continue after the 3 to 4 years. And for each of the living labs, the projects will probably need to have something like 20 partners, which basically means that the typical funding per partner per year is anything between 50,000 and 150,000. And if these are typical Horizon research and innovation projects, most of this money needs to go to salaries, including the salary side costs. So EU is basically paying the salaries of people who are working on research and innovation tasks within these projects. And especially for the smaller amounts of money, like if you are getting 50,000 per year for funding for your research and innovation activities, as a rule of thumb, you need to spend about half of that to just being in the project. So about half of that goes to efforts like being in project meetings, writing the deliverables that the project requires, for traveling, and doing these kinds of things. And about the other half of the money you can then use for actual practical research and innovation work. So that's what we are speaking about here. And my current plans basically, or what I would like to do, is to have at least 2 living labs which are using permaculture design. And in addition to fulfilling all the requirements for these project calls, you also need to have something additional in your project. And these are my current ideas for having some additional in the project. One of the projects that we are proposing could be focusing on new economic structures, and the other might be focusing on spiritual holism. So what we are doing here today is to find some of these sites that we need. So for each of the project proposals, we need 10 to 20 sites. And I don't think that one site can be in very many project proposals, maybe at most in 2. So I'm trying to find 20 to 30 interesting sites, including eco-villages, urban communities, universities, non-governmental organizations, purpose companies, and so on, so that we are ready when the calls will be opened in early next year. And before that, what we can do is that we can educate people. We can define the differentiating factors, or where we are exceptionally good and how we differentiate from the other people who are making proposals to these calls, and so on. So that's why we are starting now, so that we are ready early next year. So that's about it. And basically, what we are doing here now, or what I wish that we will be able to do here today, is to discuss and think about how this kind of funding could help the eco-villages and ecolis, and on the other hand, how the experience and know-how that we have in the eco-villages can be disseminated further to the other projects and to this mission in general. So that's my brief background introduction. I have another slide set, which is the EU slide set, which is giving a little bit more details, but I don't know if we want to go there now. So I think it's better now to go for questions and comments and anything that you have initially, and then maybe we can take a round of the thoughts that you have. But maybe first, are there any questions or comments or anything like that?
Yes, one is, what do you mean about what is the new economical structures? What that you refer there, just by curiosity?
Well, it could be a number of multiple things, but what I'm here thinking about is what I researched in my previous life, basically, which was about creating money-like structures which are not really money, but which are meant to help with mean to foster cooperation instead of fostering competition, as money is doing. And I'm just trying to get here another site. So I want to show you the website of this previous project. So in one of my previous projects we had was called Generalized Merit for Respect and Social Equality. And this is the website for it. I'm putting the website also to the chat. Just a moment. There is the chat. So that you can have a look at it. And this is one example of what these new economic structures could be. You can go here to the research section and see basically what we have researched. And there is even a bad video about my previous self, where I'm explaining what these new economic structures are. There are the demos that we created for this and so on. So you can familiarize yourself with this research. But this is just one example of what these new economic structures could be.
Great, but it helps to have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Another question is, how can a small profit association could collaborate in this way without any kind of experience in applying to EU funding. For example, even though we have someone inside the organization that is used to apply for funding, but normally for national funds, not EU funds. How do you envision that? Do you think it's possible?
I think it's fully possible, because usually even the smallest partners, as they are called in these projects, they get this 50,000 per year for that number of years. So you probably can hire somebody part-time, maybe somebody who is working for Ecolis, the other part-time or something like that, to take care of the EU bureaucracy that you need. And that can happen only when the project is funded. So in the preparation phase, I'm sure that people at Ecolis and I and so on and the other consortium members can take care of you and guide you with whatever you need to write for the proposal. And then if you're funded, then you just need to reserve in your budget some money to hire some person who will take care of the bureaucracy. And maybe Ecolis has some structures to help already. So maybe some of that bureaucracy can go through Ecolis. I don't know. Maybe you, Abdul, have some idea of that.
Yeah, thank you, Pekka. So yeah, depending on the size and the expertise, everybody will have, also depending on what the call is about, different role into the application process, role into the delivery process. And so that distinction can be made. If an organization is key critical and has a contribution to the project, but doesn't have what it takes to apply, then that's okay. There would be application team, and then there will be implementation team. And especially when we talk about those living labs, I don't expect that the places that will be targeted to become a living lab have that focus around EU project funding, because maybe it's possible, but I would be surprised if somebody has a strong focus into soil regeneration and in the same time their head up there into EU funding. That's what Ecolis is about. This level of abstraction that it can be dealt with and involve those who are much more on the ground and stay on the ground.
And that's also my motivation more or less here, because I want to really to help the small players who are exceptionally good, like some of the eco-villages. Not all of the eco-villages are very good with the soil, but some of them are very good with the soil. And also some of the sites which are doing permaculture are very good with the soil, so exceptionally good. So especially get those on board in this especially in the first lighthouses and first living labs. For the lighthouses, you always need to be exceptionally good, but for the first living labs. And if we manage to get even one living lab through the first calls, then we know how to apply for the living labs, and then we can spread it also to those sites which are not that good with the soil yet, but which have other strengths which could be combined with the methods which are coming from this mission. Yeah, but you don't need to know how to deal with EU projects beforehand. We will help you.
Thank you very much.
Luis, can you write which organization you are from, so also I can get a good idea of what you
Yeah, it's called, the name is a little bit strange. It's called Argolas e Bitolas. So it's a Portuguese name. It's a very strange name, but I can link you to, because I'm also, yes, and then I can link you back with the ideas that you have. So yes, and then we can engage. Actually, this project that I'm talking about was funded by Permaculture Collab during the last year. I don't know if some of you may also have heard about it. So it's called Green Data Earth, actually. But I will share with you the links. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments right now?
Yes, Vishnu.
Hello. Hi. I'm rather, I'll turn off the camera, turn off because I'm outside. Okay. I'm rather new at this. I'm an architect, so I just want to ask a question because you encouraged me by saying you want to help the little ones. I actually am trying to start an eco-village project in the rural area near Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. And I hope to do it together with Permaculture Croatia. You are maybe familiar with? Yes. Okay. So I understand soil restoration. What does it mean? But what would that mean in this very case? Like, we have a plot, we don't have anything planned yet. We are about to start the design of the village, and what would soil restoration in terms of the EU funding period, like it's for a couple of years, what would that mean? I understand it would be like living lab means living experiment. So I usually understand better with the example. Can you tell me, for instance, what would that mean, soil restoration for a village that is not formed yet?
For this kind of a case where there is a village which is not there yet, there would need to be some other already existing organization which is actually the partner in the project, like Permaculture Croatia in your case. So basically, for your case, this could be, for example, this is just an example, it could be that Permaculture Croatia would hire maybe 2 people, one to take care of the project side and all the EU things, and one to work with you to look at the soil. So as a part of your permaculture design, you would have maybe 1 or 2 designs which are really just about the soil, how to improve and manage the soil in the plot that you have. So of course, I don't know which kind of soil you have there already, but if it's like former agriculture plan,
yes, yeah. That would former traditional agriculture site, yeah.
And is the soil already spoiled? Like, has there been erosion? Has there been like loss of carbon in the soil and so on?
No, I think it's the general problem with the agriculture of monoculture. So that the usual in traditional agriculture problem of monoculture.
Yeah, but I don't know what is the typical situation in Croatia, because for example,
the monoculture okay. So I get the picture, and I understand that the Permaculture Croatia would guide me in the beginning with that.
Yeah, and it would be good to get somebody from there to our next meeting. And also, if you find somebody from Permaculture Croatia, they can also contact me and Abdul directly.
Okay. And another question, sorry, would we have where I live, it's the suburb of Zagreb. We have a former industry site, former meat producing factory. Is that applicable on sites like that? Because that is really a brownfield area. So
yes, that would be good. So we also, in addition to the agricultural sites, we also need places where the soil has really been spoiled, like previous industrial area. Maybe there has been some oil leaks to the soil. Maybe there has been some other problems. Maybe we need to start with injecting the soil with special kinds of bacteria to split or restore the situation and reduce some of the chemicals from the soil by splitting and processing there on site and so on. And having also that kind of sites is probably very beneficial for the proposals.
Thank you very much. So far, I'll keep the contact and hopefully look for some help from you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Maya, I think you have a hand up.
Hello, I'm Maya Vlasic. I'm also from Croatia. And I'm part of an organization called Četiri grada Dragodid. It's an organization that deals with dry stone wall building. And why I was interested in this webinar is because recently in June I was in Greece, where we built dry stone micro dams to ensure enough water for the soil. It's a kind of traditional way of building these small micro dams in dry stone technique on the island. This was specifically the island of Paros. And recently I found a very interesting article about natural infrastructure in dryland streams, which can establish a regenerative wetland sink that can reverse desertification and strengthen climate resilience. I'm reading the name of this article. So this is not an eco-village, which I'm now talking about. This is an association in Croatia, which we are dealing with restoration of a dry stone wall all across Croatia. Dry stone walls as an intangible heritage, but also in this term of, but we are trying to shift to the ecosystem, we are trying to shift this knowledge of dry stone wall building and of natural building in the context of ecosystems. So my question is, finally, after this long introduction, is would this kind of collaboration be applicable to this horizon call of certain investigation or research on how these techniques of buildings can be used in regeneration of the soil?
It could be. It's hard to say at this point because we don't know yet what is the actual focus of the calls. But yeah, that's possible. As I mentioned, in addition to the actual agricultural sites, we also need these former industrial sites, some urban sites and so on. And we also need NGOs and SMEs. So in your case, I understood that you are basically an association, so you are an NGO. Mm-hmm. And especially by the time that we will be applying, if you already have some research results, you have done some initial research, you can show that, okay, this is not completely new technology, but this is this old technology, which is now being recycled for this kind of a thing. And it already has been shown to work at some examples. And you have some publications or something that we can refer to, that it has been studied and shown that, yes, this seems to be working, then that's a good starting point. Mm-hmm. But for these calls, it's probably a little bit stretched to go with something which is completely new, which hasn't been tried yet. But as I said, the calls will run until 2026. So you still have about 4 years to get some initial research results and so on that you can apply or be as a part of these proposals as well. And whether you can be there already in the initial phases when we will be applying for the first times, it's hard to say, because that will be clarified then early next year when we learn how these calls actually are, and then we will also know better what is your situation.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Is it possible to stay in contact somehow to get to know about how these procedures work and what are the next steps?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I will share links. So the best way is always our newsletters, where we share all of the events that are shared. So this is the link where you can set up both newsletters. So there's just the journal newsletter, and there is another one. It's our community of practice around community-led initiatives. So I recommend you just follow both. They're quite different, and you would follow those project building sessions, for instance, definitely. And you can also share your own initiatives if you have things that you think would be valuable. It's community-led initiative, so this newsletter can serve also for that.
Okay, Nara, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, actually, I'm thinking about our agriculture advisory service that's been working for many years on improving the soil quality. But now the lady who's been working there, the main engine of this, she's retired since like 2 years. And maybe she could connect with somebody, you know, in this region where I am, we have around 10% organic farming already.
Wow.
And what they are, because it's olives mostly, and olives are easy. And also many vineyards are turning to organic as well too, because, you know, it's higher level wine and so on. That's how they are investing in this kind of transition. But she's saying that what they are lacking is the protocols of for organic farming and for these shifts, because she says as an advisor, I have to give my farmer comes to me, I have to give him exactly what he has to do in case of this disease and that problem and so on. And they are not like, they don't have enough testing yet for all the crops that are grown here. And especially the problem is like we have some small vegetable farmers as well, and they're dealing organic. They're dealing with their issues in their own ways. But also like you can see the improvement of the soil just by like seeing it and seeing the crops and all of that. But then, you know, all the measurements, and they normally don't do any chemical analysis because it's kind of expensive, or like it's just a drag for them. So it's kind of encouraging them and connecting with agricultural advisory service. Maybe that would be something, maybe also in other regions, to work with them. Because often now, given the policies and what's happening in the world now, organic is there as a viable option, but they are struggling to get the stubborn farmers to change. That's what she was saying.
And then I think what could be also done here is that some of the organic farmers could maybe spearhead with some agroforestry. So if they have already olive farms, they could add there initially maybe some crops which are basically just grown there under the olive trees in order to increase the humus. So
I mean, don't worry, this is like completely happening. Like even the lady that I'm talking about, they have rotation with chicken and small sheep in the olive orchard, plus then planting winter crops, especially because here you can have Swiss chard and like cabbage stuff in the olive. So it's combined olive orchard. It's not just monoculture. And they are encouraging always to keep coverage, not to till them. So to keep at least grass. And there is a guy also who experiments with no-tilling in olive orchards. And he has really like one of the most diverse olive orchards in the region. So, I mean, there are really good practices, and they are spearheading, as you say, and they're connecting with others. And so, yeah, there are options. And then, like, as I'm saying, 10 to 20%, it's quite kind of easy to get on board, but then the rest is, that's what they are saying, at least.
Yeah, well, if we're thinking about this particular program, this research and innovation program, I think within this program, we are most interested in your spearheading farmers already. So of those who are already doing well, so that basically they would be receiving EU funding for measuring things, for bringing the measurements to the common database, because that's what EU also wants. They want all of these living labs to measure the soil quality in a protocol that will be set up. The measuring will probably start only by 2024 or 2025, according to the protocol, because it will take some time to set up the protocol. But after that, the plan is that all of the places will follow the same protocols to measure regularly the soils. And then based on the measurements by 2030, we will know which methods work best and which don't work that well. And for that, we need to have also the various kinds of diversity so that we have also the background information for that. And these spearheading farms would be very, very welcome there. And especially if they can start some measurements already early, that might qualify them even as lighthouses. For example, we have here in Finland one permaculture farm that has been doing soil measurements for 3 years now. They are not doing them very well, and they are not doing them according to a very specific protocol, but that is still something which very few people are doing already. So that side we are trying to have in one of the proposals, at least, if not in multiple ones.
Okay, so I let Irena, my friend, know, and we'll see if there is maybe possible connection with this agricultural advisory service in the region.
Mm-hmm. And it would be good to have this kind of multiple players from. So I understand now that you are multiple players from Croatia. That is good. As I said, I will be networking in northern Italy, also a little bit in southern Italy and in Greece. And then sorry about that. And then if you can create this kind of a network in Croatia about people, then there is one in Finland, and of course it would be good to have one also in Portugal, so that most probably in the actual Living Lab protocol proposals we will have like, well, we don't know, but most probably we will have like 3 to 4 countries in one proposal, and then from each country we will have something like 4 to 7 different sites. And if those sites are close to each other, it makes it easier to communicate, easier to share information. It will allow us to save a little bit of traveling cost and so on, and that would probably also look good to the EU. So that's the most likely setting for its Living Lab, is that the Living Lab will be distributed over 3 or 4 countries, and in each of the countries there will be anything between 5 and 7 sites. But we don't know. That may be a wrong guess, but that's what I'm guessing now.
A hand from Luis.
Yes, a question about the measurements and the protocols for the measurements. If there is already some kind of protocol that you are talking about, if there's a standard for what are those requirements, or is still open, or what do you think it might end up being?
I'm not an expert enough there to be able to answer that question. So as far as I know, there aren't any standards yet. People are using various methods for measuring the health of the soil. Of course, what you can do is to basically to measure the amount of humic acids in your soil, which is basically measuring how much carbon your soil is having. So that is one of the standard methods, but I don't know exactly how that is done. Then there are ways to measure the microbiome. So basically the fungi and the bacteria that you have in your soil and how healthy that is. But again, I don't know how to do that. And then there are other measures. But as I said, the EU is funding now a separate research and innovation project, which is setting up those protocols. So you don't need to worry about them. But as I said, on the other hand, if you are already doing it in some way, that's good, because that's showing that you are willing to do it and you are already doing it. Then on the other hand, you have to adapt to the EU protocol then later on once it's set. But as far as I know, it's not set yet.
Okay, thank you.
Because it also depends on what you can measure, depending on the country, depending on what your initiative is. So you cannot really put a standard, depending if you're doing just agriculture and you're trying to restore it after years of using intensive agriculture, or it is a totally depleted soil, polluted, and you will measure totally different things, totally different chemicals, totally different qualities of the soil. So I think what you can measure, and what you can improve, try to prove that there is some improvement, and that would still count.
Yes, actually, in Green Data Earth, that's the purpose of the project. It's exactly to develop a certain kind of open source technology in order to measure the evolution of the soil. That's one of the factors, and that's what I was asking. If there were already any kind of requirements? The goal of the project is exactly not only to measure, because if normally people involved, especially in the permaculture, they are not very kind to this kind of metrics, so they are not very open to this kind of standards. But it's quite important, as far as I know, to have those historical pathways so that we can understand and that we can demonstrate actually what's the value that is coming from there, from small practices. And that's one of the aims of the Green Data Earth. The other one is to intersect there with our own digital activity. For example, here we are 6 persons and we are 6 by 6, 36. We are making 36 streams of video at the same time, which from the permaculture lens means that we only need to make one stream, is the person that is speaking. And that says that we are wasting energy. And from the sustainable, because one of the relations, Green Data Earth aims to relate the impact that we have with our own digital activity, and on the other hand, provide the solutions that we can inset and improve the environment that is around us. And that's the relation between the two things, technology and how can permaculture be a way to help to improve the environment that is around us. And data is quite important for that, to measure and also to demonstrate how the value that we can bring from permaculture practices. And we don't have it, actually. It's really rare to have it.
Can you please give us a pointer to the project that you mentioned? So yeah, greendata.earth. Okay, thank you.
It's on the version 2, so from there you cannot see very much, just the background. And we are preparing now the version 3. We are testing out with sensors and trying to develop a product. So and yeah, that's what I would like to understand, if we can, by any chance, get some funding to move on, to go further with this.
There are other calls where this would have been possible, and there will be new ones. But unfortunately,
this is a tool that will help us to demonstrate that in this specific case, the benefits that permaculture brings. Yeah. So it's the tool to measure, in a way.
Yeah, this is very good to know about. And what we can try to do is to connect this Green Data Earth project with the EU-funded projects once they are funded. I don't think that yeah, but this is still in a way going on, and I need to learn all the players, all the industrial players and others which will be here. As I mentioned, this is a new area to me, so I'm learning also myself all the time. What I know is how to apply for these EU projects, but I don't know this particular area where we are now applying that well.
Yes, because after this phase, yes, we have here one implemented with 5 or 6 years permaculture project. We are starting a new one, and we have a very here in this area where I live. It's on the mountains, on the national park in Portugal in the north, and there's a very old, with almost like a food forest with 20 years with a permaculture design, remarkable. So we have 3 different experience. One that is quite mature but doesn't have any kind of data, but is very well documented. Another one that has 5 years, for example, and the new one that we are starting. And the idea was to use those 3 experiences that we have here in order also to develop this kind of product, so that we can start to, I'm open to ideas, collaborations, whatever it is.
Yeah,
because we join together to get some.
Yeah. Please remind me about this at some point. Right now, my focus, as I said, is more on these living labs, but there are also these other opportunities for these kind of tools and open source and so on. So I will try to keep this in mind. I will put it on my task list, but my task list is quite long. So and this is not high priority right now. So if you can, it would be probably good if you can remind me in about, let's say, 2 or 3 months about this.
Thank you. I will.
Great. Okay. So
any last words? Any last question? Because otherwise, I think we could talk just about next steps. So we're very into preemptive, anticipating, so that we're not in a rush next year. And so this call of intention, we're gonna spread it out. So you can express in which categories you would see yourself, even if you're not ready now, because again, it's for 2023. So we're really into the prospective. So this is something we're gonna pass on. We invite you also, if you can pass it on to other contacts, because we need to cover a lot of countries, a lot of different topics, because that would be like the strength of most project funding application. If we can show diversity and different stages of maturity, you can also spread the word. So this is being recorded. We're gonna publish it on YouTube. You can also share this recording, because this I think this knowledge is useful to know what the funding of the EU is gonna go to, and that communities have really a shot to go there. Like if we talk about 100 living labs, I don't see anyone else besides, okay, universities, but community-led initiatives. This is really like, it's for us. It's literally for us. Yeah, did I summarize it all, Pekka?
I think you summarized it well. We also have to remember that some of the living labs will be very different. So they will be more like industrial agriculture oriented, and so on. But the EU is also, according to the knowledge that I have now, is that they also want to have very different ones. So I believe that we should be able to relatively easily have like 2 living labs. And if we do this well, then maybe we could have like up to 10 out of those 100 or something like that, realistically. And of course, then we can wish for a larger number, but that starts to be maybe a little bit of wishful thinking. But yeah, 10 living labs is already like 200 sites. That's quite a number. Okay, I think we are starting to have the time allocated that we had. So thank you very much for joining, and please spread the word, and encourage people to contact me. You can send me email, and you can find my previous life background in the internet. I've been to the internet for longer than Google, so Google knows all my sins from my previous life. And yeah, Abdul and I, we will arrange a couple of other seminars or something like that still before the Christmas, at least, maybe also a longer workshop once we start to know more about what is going to happen. But right now it's about building this network, understanding what is needed, and getting the people that are interested, and building the network.
Thank you, Pekka. And I will say one last word is that this webinar is also organized by Ecolis, which is a membership-led organization. And if you are curious and would like to join the circle, this is one of the best way to know about the events, to join the project, because obviously we're gonna prioritize the reach out to the members. So think about it and join the fun.
Yeah.
And yes, I can see a request, Luis. So Vishna has given consent. If anybody else gives consent, I can share the events of if you agree. If you agree. Pekka has agreed. Nara has agreed. That's all good. All right. Bless you, Maya. All good. All right. I'll send an email with the 6 of us, and so we can continue. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.